We live in a complex, ever-changing world. How can we maintain our individuality and personal power without being swept up in the events around us? Find out next as we explore how to shape our future by using the power of free will. The 21st century, the beginning of a new era. We stand at the threshold of a time filled with rapid change, uncertainty, and monumental possibilities. Visionaries have pointed to this time as a turning point for humanity. One such man was the American clairvoyant Edgar Cayce. From holistic healing to spiritual development, the world that Edgar Cayce predicted is now emerging, inviting us to explore the new millennium.
Our ever-changing world offers us dozens of choices every day. Sometimes it can all seem overwhelming. If anything, the array of choices and decisions will probably increase as we move further into the 21st century. But the human soul possesses a powerful agent for dealing with the complexities of life. It's our own free will, the ability to affirm who we really are and to make choices that reflect our highest values. Discovering your will and what it's all about and how you can use it properly is one key factor for achieving a balanced, happy life. I'm Mark Thurston. I'm joined today by Dr. Scott Sparrow, psychotherapist and author. Scott, welcome to the program.
Thanks.
What does modern psychology know about free will?
Well, it's a very difficult concept. You know, for centuries, Christian theologians in particular have asked the question, are human beings good? Do they have any intrinsic goodness? And recently, psychologists have taken up the question in a slightly different way. And the question that's so unanswerable is, are human beings free? Do they have any free will? Or are they determined by genetics and authorities and forces outside of themselves?
So most psychologists would say we're just in a box and don't have much free will?
Well, I think most psychotherapists who work with people every day, like I do, would say that there's precious little free will operating in most of our lives.
Well, how can we distinguish between a kind of macho, repressive willpower and, on the other hand, a more healthy, balanced use of the power of will?
Well, I think that often we equate will with domination or control. And so it has a kind of a negative connotation, a person who's willful or controlling. And I think that what we need to move toward in understanding the healthy aspects of will is the idea of dominion, of working within the context we're in, the people we're in, operating in right relationship with them, and instead of trying to control them, trying to work and cooperate with the system we're in. That, I think, is where the power of the will can best be seen.
Does it suggest women might find that easier than men in our culture?
Well, I think that women have a sense of how relationships work better than men, but sometimes they don't often take an assertive stance that men are prone to take more readily.
Well, what are the factors that lead people to surrender or give up this innate power to decide for themselves?
Well, I think that many of us early in life, first of all, have activated our will and tried to make choices, but we've been beaten down or frustrated because of perhaps our parents didn't agree with our choices or some other authority figure. And because of the consequences from using our will at an early age, we grow up feeling that there's no point in doing this, it's too dangerous. And out of that sense of hopelessness or helplessness comes a desire to be rescued. I don't want to use my will, I don't want to make these choices, please come help me. So we turn to other people and other authorities, psychics, various authority figures to rescue us from that hard decision making. Thirdly, we face a tremendous amount of information today, more than 10 or 20 years ago. It's everywhere, on the TV, on the internet. There's just information coming at us from everywhere, and it's very hard to sort through and glean the best path for ourselves. Mm-hmm. Fourthly, most of us are not really in touch with the deeper self. We haven't made the effort to connect with Spirit so that we can find what the true path of choice is for us.
Well, give us an example of somebody that you've worked with who used healthy will to turn their life around.
Recently, I had a lady come to me who is a very creative woman who had gone to school and gotten her graduate degree and started teaching and was doing well. And she ran headlong into an authority figure at work who began to find her a little too out there, brash, immature, and this supervisor's mind. And she came to me and she's feeling victimized. And so we started working and realized that this woman in her life represented her parents, and that all her life she'd been kind of running away from her parents' own view of her as somebody who needed to stay home and not go to school and not be seen and not, act out in a healthy, creative way. And she was finding her parents all over again. So we had to understand, we began to explore how she saw this authority figure as someone to rebel against, to disobey. And there was nothing free in that. And so she had to find out what was truly her own impulse. Not rebellion, not acquiescence, but truly her own path through that maze of conflict.
Is there a simple way of putting the single most important principle about free will and how we work with it in our own lives?
I think that this idea, if you don't use it, you lose it. That when we exercise the will, it's like a muscle. It gets stronger, we become more competent. And secondly, when we exercise our individual will, we come into right relationship with God. I think if you look at the lives of the great mystics, you see that their relationship with the divine has been one in which they were empowered to make choices on their own, to take risks, and to come into right relationship with God.
We'll come back to that theme later. Sometimes the topic of free will seems a little bit abstract or theoretical, but actually nothing could be more practical. Every day we wrestle with issues of independence and freedom. Oftentimes it boils down to understanding what personal power really means.
Power. People crave it. The world respects it. It's the capacity to get things done. It also means getting your way. The power to influence other people. The ability to have your ideas and your desires make a difference. Everyone needs some amount of personal power in order to feel healthy and happy. Each of us needs to feel that we have some control over our lives, that we are actively shaping our own future, and that our individuality really counts in the world. The secret to personal power rests with a little understood part of every human being, our will, our freedom to make choices. One spiritual philosopher who deeply appreciated the importance of free will was the American clairvoyant Edgar Cayce. He always emphasized that free will is one of the basic ingredients of the human soul. Just as there are three basic colors, red, blue, and yellow, from which all other colors can be made, Cayce believed that the human soul is made of three essential ingredients. The life force he called spirit, the creative principle he called mind, and the power to be free and independent he called will. When the will force is active and healthy in us, certain important qualities are easily expressed. We are able to discipline our own lives by doing the things we ought to be doing to stay healthy and creative. The will also gives our lives focus and direction, rather than letting every distraction pull attention away from our real priorities. The power of will is the power to meet life courageously and be adventuresome. And finally, the power of personal free will makes it possible to face choices and then be decisive. This decision-making power may be the most important gift of our free will as we meet the challenges of a demanding world.